Have you ever had that weird feeling that you don't belong in this world? That deep sense that no matter how hard you try to fit into modern life structures, something inside you knows that your journey here is coming to an end? Maybe you're picking up on the quiet signals of a soul in its final earthly incarnation. A soul that's almost completed the cycle of lessons it came here to learn. If this message is resonating with something deep inside of you, don't forget to click the like button right now and subscribe to the channel for more insights about your spiritual journey. Share in the comments if you've ever experienced any of the signs I'm about to describe today. And what if I told you that you might be living your last life on Earth at this very moment? That every discomfort with the material world, every inexplicable feeling of nostalgia for a home you don't recognize in this realm, every moment of deep connection with something greater are all signs of a soul about to graduate from its earthly school? Most people go through life without ever questioning why they're here. They follow the set path, getting born, studying, working, starting a family, growing old, and then leaving. But you feel that there's something more. A restlessness that can't be resolved by material achievements. A search that goes beyond what's visible. And maybe this isn't just coincidence or a passing daydream. It might be the final call of your soul, acknowledging its stage of evolution. This isn't a conversation about death, but about transcendence. Not about endings, but about wholeness. We're about to dive into one of the greatest mysteries of human existence, based on ancient knowledge whispered through the ages by those who were able to see beyond the veil of ordinary reality. Since the dawn of humanity, in every culture and civilization, there have been records of the belief in multiple lives. From the ancient Hindu scriptures describing samsara, through the Egyptian mysteries of Osiris, to the subtle references in early Christian texts that were later removed at councils. The idea of reincarnation isn't a new or fringe concept, but a universal understanding of the human journey. Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, performed over 14,000 psychic readings while in a deep trance. In hundreds of those readings, he described in detail the reincarnation process and, more importantly for our conversation today, the signs that a soul is in its final phase on the earthly plane. These records, preserved by the Association for Research and Enlightenment, offer deep insights into what we're experiencing now at this critical moment in human history. What's interesting is that this knowledge wasn't confined to esoteric or religious circles. Carl Jung, one of modern psychology's pillars, proposed the concept of the collective unconscious, a reservoir of shared experiences accumulated by humanity across generations. What Jung called archetypes can be understood, from a broader perspective, as memories of multiple lives showing up in our current psychological patterns. And today, we're living in a unique time in human history, where more people than ever are awakening to this larger reality. It isn't a coincidence that you're watching this video right now. There's a collective call happening, an evolutionary acceleration that is bringing ancient souls to the surface, ready to complete their earthly cycle. Forget everything you may have heard about reincarnation being a punishment or karma being a sort of punitive cosmic debt. That's a limited and distorted view of a process that is far more beautiful and meaningful. Reincarnation isn't a sentence, but an extraordinary opportunity for expansion and growth. Imagine Earth as an elaborate theater of experiences. Every life is a different role you play, encountering different circumstances, challenges, relationships, and lessons. In one life, you might be rich, in another poor. In one, you might be a man, in another a woman. In one life, you're healthy. In another, you face physical limitations. Every experience brings a unique perspective that enriches your soul on its way back to wholeness. It's like attending a cosmic university where each incarnation is a different semester, with specific subjects that your soul chose to master. And just as graduation day arrives at university, so too comes the moment when your soul has completed its earthly curriculum. This isn't a moment for sadness, but for transcendent celebration. Quantum physicist Amit Goswami suggests that consciousness, not matter, is the fundamental basis of reality. From this perspective, Our multiple lives are like waves of possibilities collapsing into concrete experiences, all emerging from the same infinite ocean of consciousness. When we complete our reincarnation cycle, we're not losing something, but returning to our original, more expanded nature. Modern understanding of reincarnation invites us to see our lives not as a straight line from birth to death, but as an evolving spiral that slowly leads us deeper into our divine center, until we no longer need physical experience to continue our journey of expansion. Now, let's get to the heart of this video. How can you recognize the signs that you might be on your final earthly journey? These indicators aren't strict rules, but recurring patterns observed in ancient souls about to transcend the cycle of rebirths. First, you experience a deep sense of alienation from the material world. It's not that you reject the beauty of life on Earth. On the contrary, you can appreciate it deeply, but there's a natural detachment from the things that most people obsess over. Money, status, power, fame. All of these might seem like a curious game, but not something worth sacrificing your inner peace for. You might ask yourself, how can people take these fleeting things so seriously? Second, you go through profound and recurring déjà vu moments. Not just that fleeting feeling of I've been here before, but moments of recognition so intense they seem to tear at the fabric of time. Places you've never visited in this lifetime feel oddly familiar. People you've just met seem like old friends. It's as if your soul is revisiting important scenes from past lives for one final integration. Third, you develop a radically different relationship with death. The fear that paralyzes most people simply doesn't resonate with you anymore. Not that you want to die. You still value your current journey, but the transition no longer carries the terror it once did. You intuitively understand that death is just a passage, a change of state, like falling asleep in one room and waking up in another. Fourth, you start noticing constant synchronicities in your life. Repeated numbers, coincidental meetings exactly when you needed them, books falling open to pages filled with messages that seem meant for you. It's as if the universe is showing you that reality is far more interconnected and responsive to your inner self than the material world suggests. These synchronicities aren't random. They're part of the fabric of reality becoming more visible as the veil between dimensions thins out for you. Pause for a moment. Breathe deeply and ask yourself, how many of these signs do you recognize in your own experience? The answer might reveal a lot about where you are on your evolutionary journey. Have you ever noticed how some people live in a constant state of anxiety, while others radiate an inexplicable peace, even in the most challenging situations? This contrast isn't just about personality or psychological resilience. It could reveal something deeper about the evolutionary stage of the soul. When a soul is in its final incarnation, there's a natural dissolving of the fears that govern most human lives. It's not that you become immune to everyday worries. You still care about your current journey, but your relationship with them fundamentally changes. It's like watching clouds drift by in the sky. You see them, acknowledge their presence, but you know they're not the whole sky, just temporary phenomena against an infinitely vast background. The fear of scarcity, which drives the obsession with accumulating riches and resources, begins to lose its hold on you. You develop a deep trust in life's flow, knowing that you've always received exactly what you needed at the right time, even if not in the form you first desired. This isn't blind faith, but an understanding based on hundreds or even thousands of experiences over multiple lives. The fear of rejection, which keeps so many people stuck in unsatisfying relationships or inauthentic behaviors, gradually dissolves. You start to see that true love doesn't need to be earned or deserved, but is your natural state when the layers of conditioning are stripped away. The opinions of others, while still respected, no longer define your sense of self-worth. Perhaps the most significant indicator is how you handle life's major crises. While others are devastated by losses, illnesses, or dramatic upheavals, you find within yourself an unwavering core of serenity. It isn't that you don't feel pain. In fact, your capacity to feel may be deeper than ever. but you no longer identify entirely with your suffering. There's a part of you that remains a compassionate witness, knowing that even the worst storms eventually pass. This unusual serenity often draws people into your orbit. Without any conscious effort, you become a beacon of stability for those still caught in the webs of fear. Children and animals, in particular, seem to sense this quality in you, naturally drawing near, intuitively recognizing the absence of threat and the presence of something rare and precious. Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt completely overcome by fear? Not just momentarily startled, but utterly consumed by anxiety? If those experiences are becoming rarer in your life, you might be witnessing the dissolution of your soul's last karmic bonds. One of the most revealing signs of a soul on its final journey on Earth is the radical change that happens in your motivational system. Desires don't disappear. You're still human, after all, but their nature and intensity change fundamentally. The ambitions that drive most people, impressive titles, public recognition, accumulating possessions, outdoing competitors, start to feel strangely empty, like toys that once fascinated you, but now are seen with the wisdom of maturity. There's no judgment here. It's simply a natural shift in perspective, like a traveler who, after exploring many exotic lands, no longer feels the feverish urge to collect souvenirs. Instead of chasing external achievements, you discover a growing desire for authenticity and inner alignment. The question that guides your choices changes from, what can I get out of this, to does this reflect who I really am? This shift in motivation is subtle, but deeply liberating. You start making choices that might seem incomprehensible to those still caught up in the search for external validation. Maybe you leave a prestigious career to pursue something that brings genuine meaning, even if it comes with less social recognition. Perhaps you drastically simplify your lifestyle, not out of asceticism, but because you realize that many possessions bring more burden than real value. Maybe you start prioritizing time for contemplation, creativity, or service to others over activities that promise material rewards. Your relationship with time also transforms. That frantic urgency that characterizes so many modern lives, the constant feeling of being behind, of needing to achieve more before it's too late, gives way to a more expansive perception. You begin to feel that there's plenty of time for what really matters, that the process is just as valuable as the outcome, and that the journey doesn't have to be a race. And perhaps the most remarkable part of this transformation is the spontaneous emergence of joy and gratitude for no apparent reason. Moments of quiet ecstasy in the ordinary, the wind rustling through tree leaves, the sound of rain, a stranger's smile, the aroma of a simple meal, become more frequent and profound. You discover that happiness doesn't have to be chased or earned. It comes naturally when you are fully present. Have you ever caught yourself letting go of something that everyone around you still craves, simply because it no longer resonates with your inner truth? Have you ever felt an inexplicable satisfaction in seemingly ordinary moments? These may be signs that your soul is breaking free from the patterns of desire that once kept it tied to the cycle of reincarnations. As you get closer to the end of your earthly cycle, a fascinating change occurs in the way you experience reality. It's as if the filters that keep most people stuck in a limited, three-dimensional view of the world begin to dissolve, revealing a cosmos that is far more vast, interconnected, and multidimensional. What once seemed solid and fixed, the material world with its seemingly immutable rules, starts to show its more fluid and malleable nature. You might notice moments when time seems to stretch or shrink, depending on your state of consciousness. Physical spaces can suddenly feel imbued with qualities that go beyond their visible characteristics. A sense of sacredness in ordinary places, an almost tangible energetic density in certain environments. This isn't merely a subjective or imaginary phenomenon. Quantum physics itself has shown us that reality, at its most fundamental level, behaves in ways that defy our everyday perceptions. Physicist David Bohm proposed the idea that we live in a holographic universe, where every fragment carries information about the whole. Neuropsychologist Carl Prebram suggested that our brain functions like a holographic receiver, decoding a field of possibilities rather than just recording a fixed external reality. For a soul on its final journey, these aren't just interesting theories, but lived experiences. You might start noticing patterns and connections invisible to others, as if you could briefly glimpse the underlying fabric of reality that binds all beings and events. Synchronicities become not just occasional curious coincidences, but a constant mode of navigation, as if the universe were in direct dialogue with your inner consciousness. Dreams take on a different quality. Instead of being mere processing of daily experiences or expressions of the subconscious, they might become gateways to other dimensions of reality. You might experience lucid dreams more frequently, states where you're fully aware while your physical body sleeps. In these expanded states, you might find yourself exploring other planes of existence, communicating with non-physical entities, or accessing knowledge that goes beyond your formal education in this life. Even your perception of your physical body might undergo subtle changes. Moments of non-local awareness, experiences where you feel your perception isn't confined to your body's boundaries, can occur spontaneously during meditation, nature walks, or even amid everyday activities. You might feel as if you're both within and beyond your body at the same time, almost as if you're rehearsing for that great transition that is bound to come. Some consciousness researchers, like Dr. Stanislav Grof, have extensively documented how expanded states of awareness allow access to past life memories, perinatal experiences around birth, and transpersonal dimensions of the psyche. What science is only beginning to map out, you may be directly experiencing as a natural part of your graduation from the earthly school. Reflect for a moment. Have you ever had moments when reality seemed to tear apart, revealing something much greater behind the appearances? Have you ever felt like you were in two places at once, or experiencing the world through a consciousness broader than your personal identity? These flashes of expanded perception might be signs that the veils between dimensions are becoming thinner for you, preparing your consciousness for that final transition beyond the physical realm. Perhaps the most profound and transformative phenomenon that occurs during your final incarnation is the gradual dissolution of identification with the ego, the mental construct you've spent your whole life believing is you. This isn't an intellectual process or an abstract philosophy, but a lived experience that completely revolutionizes your relationship with yourself and the world. What you always called me, your name, your personal history, your social roles, your achievements and failures, starts to be recognized as just a temporary character in a much broader cosmic drama. This understanding doesn't come from books or external teachings, but from moments of crystalline clarity where you directly experience your deeper nature beyond all these transient identities. This process may begin with small glimpses during contemplative practices or moments of deep connection with nature. Suddenly, for a few seconds or minutes, the mind becomes completely silent and you experience pure awareness, without an object, without a center or periphery. In those moments, there isn't someone meditating or someone experiencing. It's only the experience unfolding in a vast open field of consciousness. Over time, these moments expand and begin to permeate your everyday life. You might be in the middle of a conversation, driving, working, or simply resting, when suddenly a shift in perspective occurs, as if the camera that always filmed life from a personal point of view now pulls back, revealing a much broader panorama. The fascinating thing is that this disidentification doesn't diminish your ability to function in the world. In fact, it often enhances it. Free from the constant self-preoccupation and self-doubt that drain so much psychic energy, you discover a natural efficiency in your actions. Decisions that once seemed complicated become clear when they aren't clouded by fear and ego-driven desires. As this process advances, you begin to experience a natural empathy that goes beyond intellectual understanding. You literally feel others as extensions of your own expanded consciousness. It's not that you take on their problems or get lost in their emotions. Instead, you maintain an unusual clarity, but there's a dissolving of the barriers that once separated your suffering from their suffering. This effortless compassion begins to express itself spontaneously in your interactions. You no longer have to try to be a good person or follow external moral rules. Beneficial actions just flow naturally from your recognition of the fundamental unity with all beings. Serving others stops being a sacrifice or an obligation and becomes a natural expression of who you are. Paradoxically, as the personal ego dissolves, a more authentic individuality emerges. Freed from the need to conform socially and from the adaptive masks developed over multiple lives, you become a more singular version of yourself. There's a crystalline quality to your presence, both transparent and unique at the same time, like a prism that doesn't create light but refracts it in a distinct way. Ask yourself, have you ever experienced moments when the feeling of being a separate entity temporarily dissolved? Have you noticed a decrease in the intensity of self-absorption that once consumed your thoughts? These might be signs that your awareness is naturally expanding beyond the limitations of the personal ego, preparing for the great expansion that will come when you finally transcend the cycle of rebirths. As you approach your final incarnation, something fascinating happens. Karmic patterns that have persisted through multiple lives begin to dissolve at a surprising rate. It's as if the universe is speeding up its healing process, allowing you to complete in a few years what would normally take several lifetimes. During most of your journey on Earth, you might have noticed recurring themes in your life, perhaps relationships that follow predictable scripts, financial challenges that reappear in different forms, or emotional patterns that seem resistant to all attempts at transformation. These aren't accidents or mere bad luck. They're expressions of unresolved karmic issues, lessons your soul still needs to master fully. On your final journey, these patterns not only become crystal clear in your awareness, but also begin to disintegrate with a speed that once would have seemed impossible. Situations that would have devastated you emotionally years ago now appear as welcome opportunities for healing. It's as if every challenge arrives perfectly calibrated to allow the resolution of some incomplete aspect of your spiritual development. You might notice people from your past reappear in your life, sometimes briefly, sometimes for significant reconnections. These meetings are rarely coincidences. They often represent the chance to close emotional cycles, to offer or receive forgiveness, or simply to acknowledge the perfection of a shared journey, no matter how painful it may have been before. Relationships that once seemed troubled or confusing take on a new clarity. You begin to see the ancestral patterns that repeat across generations in your family, and that recognition alone is often enough to break the cycle. You become capable of offering compassionate understanding to those who hurt you, recognizing that they too were trapped in their own unconscious patterns. Old traumas that resisted years of therapy or spiritual work can suddenly release their emotional charge. This rarely happens through a dramatic catharsis, but more often through a gentle acknowledgement. Oh, so that was what was going on all along. This understanding isn't merely intellectual. It is a full-bodied realization that completely transforms the experience. Even chronic physical patterns, recurring illnesses, persistent muscle tensions, discomforts that doctors could never fully explain, can start to dissolve as blocked energies are released. The body, as the dense expression of your consciousness, responds to the liberation of these karmic knots with renewed vitality, even though you may be aging chronologically. It's important to understand that this accelerated karmic healing isn't always comfortable. In fact, it may involve intense periods where it seems like your whole life is being deconstructed and rebuilt. Relationships that no longer serve your growth may end, careers might change drastically, and fundamental beliefs may be challenged. It's as if the universe is clearing away everything that won't serve your final transition. Yet amid this apparent turbulence, there's an underlying sense of relief and release, like a house being deeply cleaned before a major move. Your life is being prepared for that grand transition. Each resolved pattern, every harmonized relationship, and every integrated insight is one less tie binding your soul to the need to return. Have you noticed an acceleration in your inner healing process? Situations that once took years to process now resolve in weeks or even days. People from your past reappearing for meaningful interactions, followed by a sense of wholeness. These are powerful clues that your soul may be wrapping up its unfinished business in this realm. One of the most revealing indicators that you're on your final journey on Earth can be found in a realm that makes up about a third of our existence, yet rarely gets the attention it deserves: the world of dreams and altered states of consciousness. For most people, dreams are fragmented and confusing experiences that are quickly forgotten upon waking. But when a soul is nearing the end of its incarnational cycle, the quality of dreams changes drastically. They become more vivid, coherent, and meaningful. Colors may appear more intense than in waking life. Tactile sensations become sharper, and the sense of presence is more acute than in everyday experiences. You might start having recurring dreams of flying. Not the typical flying dream, where you soar like Superman, but experiences where your energetic body naturally separates from your physical form and travels to other realms of existence. These aren't merely products of the imagination, but genuine experiences of your subtle body exploring dimensions that will be your future home. Lucid dreams, where you remain fully aware that you're dreaming while the dream is unfolding, might occur more frequently without the need for any specific techniques. It's as if the barrier between different states of consciousness is naturally becoming more permeable, allowing you to exist simultaneously in multiple dimensions of reality. Particularly significant are the instructional dreams, where you receive direct teachings from beings who seem to possess transcendent wisdom. These guides may appear in archetypal forms shaped by your cultural background, or as pure presences of light and knowledge. The content of these teachings often challenges your intellectual understanding, yet resonates deeply on an intuitive level. During meditative experiences, you may notice similarly profound changes. States that once required hours of focused practice might now arise spontaneously after just a few minutes of quiet. The barrier between the observer and the observed, which in ordinary experiences seemed insurmountable, begins to dissolve, resulting in moments of non-duality where the separation between you and the universe temporarily disappears. Phenomena that conventional science might label as paranormal may become a normal part of your experience. Intuitive clarity that goes beyond logical reasoning, extrasensory perceptions offering information inaccessible through the five senses, or moments of precognition where you sense events before they happen. These aren't superpowers to show off, but natural expressions of consciousness as the filters of ordinary perception start to fade away. Some may experience what psychiatrist Stanislav Grof called spiritual emergencies, intense periods where the normal structures of shared reality appear to collapse, giving way to vastly expanded perceptions that can be both ecstatic and terrifying. When properly understood, these experiences aren't signs of mental imbalance, but accelerated opportunities for transformation. A particularly significant phenomenon is the experience of encounters with deceased loved ones, not in ordinary dreams, but in visits that have a quality of reality defying explanation. These encounters often bring messages of comfort and preparation, as if those who have crossed the threshold are helping pave the way for your own eventual transition. It's important to note that these changes in consciousness don't interfere with your ability to function in the material world. On the contrary, you develop an increasing capacity to navigate multiple dimensions of reality simultaneously, fully present in the physical world while maintaining access to more subtle realms of perception. Have you been noticing a heightened intensity in your dream experiences? Moments of intuitive clarity that go beyond your personal knowledge? Meditative experiences that seem to transport you to realms beyond time and space. These could be signs that your consciousness is naturally preparing for the great expansion that will come when you complete your earthly journey. We've now reached a crucial point in this journey of self-discovery. After exploring all these signs and transformations that might indicate your final incarnation on Earth, it's natural to wonder, what's next? If you truly are living your final chapter in this realm, how should that influence the way you live your days? The answer might surprise you with its simplicity. Live fully in the present. Paradoxically, recognizing that this might be your final earthly journey shouldn't pull you away from human experience, but rather draw you closer to it, with a deeper, more conscious appreciation. Every sunrise becomes a precious opportunity. Every human interaction, a potential moment of meaningful connection. Every challenge, a final chance to demonstrate the wisdom your soul has accumulated over countless lifetimes. This isn't knowledge that induces anxiety to seize every moment, but a serene understanding that naturally deepens your presence in everyday life. There's a special responsibility for those on their final journey, to serve as bridges and beacons for others. Without needing to preach or convert, your very conscious presence already offers a glimpse of higher possibilities for those still caught up in the illusions and struggles of the early stages of the soul's journey. Your words carry a different weight, not from any external authority, but from the authenticity that resonates with the inner truth of others. Your silence communicates as much as your spoken words. Your capacity to truly listen, free of ego projections and judgments, creates safe spaces where others can find their own answers. You might notice that you are naturally drawn to situations where your unique skills, refined over countless lifetimes, are exactly what is needed. This doesn't happen through effort or strategic planning, but through surrendering to life's intelligent flow that places you exactly where you need to be to complete your final contribution. This alignment with a greater purpose often shows up as a sense of benevolent inevitability. Even in challenging circumstances, you feel an underlying current of meaning and direction that transcends your personal preferences. It's not that you no longer have free will, but rather that your choices now flow from a deeper place of inner wisdom. I invite you now to take a moment for genuine self-reflection. Pause this video if you need to. Breathe deeply and ask yourself honestly, do I recognize these signs in my own life? The feeling of not belonging to the material world, the detachment from conventional ambitions, the natural dissolving of fear, the transformation in how I perceive reality, the expansion of my awareness beyond the individual ego, the acceleration of karmic healing, the changes in my dreams and states of consciousness. If many of these signs resonate with your experience, it may not be a coincidence that you found this content today. Perhaps it's a reminder, a wake-up call, or a recognition of what your soul already knows on a deeper level. Before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you to connect with our community. Share in the comments which signs you've recognized on your own journey. Your experiences might be exactly what someone else needs to read today to confirm their own inner perceptions. Click the like button so that this knowledge can reach more people who might be seeking these answers. And subscribe to the channel so we can continue exploring the deepest mysteries of human existence together. Remember, being in your final incarnation doesn't mean your work is done, but that you're in the final phase of integrating and expressing everything you've learned throughout your vast journey through time and space. This isn't a time to withdraw from the world, but to be more fully present in it, offering your unique light in the way only you can. Whether this is truly your last life on Earth or not, living with this expanded awareness transforms your experience profoundly. You discover that the true purpose of human life isn't to accumulate, conquer, or achieve, but to awaken, to recognize your essential nature beyond all temporary identities, and to express that truth through your unique presence in the world. It's a privilege to share this journey with you. In an infinite universe of possibilities, our paths have crossed at this precise moment, in this specific realm of existence. There are no coincidences in a universe as interconnected as ours. Perhaps we've met many times before, in other lives, in other forms. And maybe, when both of us complete our earthly cycles, we'll recognize each other once again in realms beyond the physical form. Until then, Let's walk with awareness, compassion, and the serenity that comes from recognizing our true nature. The journey continues, even as it transcends the form we know as human. And every conscious step we take in this realm prepares us for the grand adventure that lies ahead. Thank you very much for your presence and attention. Until our next meeting, may the wisdom of your many lives continue to awaken and illuminate your path.